Alright. Alright, state constraint and objective function. I don't want to write that. Alright. So we were okay with B. Any more questions? Because we're having a nice discussion with B. Everybody clear with B? Any little thing, no other thing? Or get your head around B? Alright, so that's what he's looking for. So in a way, it's kind of like the coach did a little drawback with the 5 forces. Yeah. Alright, C now says, assess the risk appetite of the venture capitalist and discuss how this might impact on performance measurement at Stone. So assess, so firstly, so for C now, the first thing we need to do, look at the risk appetite. Okay? Oh. Appetite of who the VC people are. Now, we know, for example, persons can be risk averse or they can be risk seeking. In our thing, we had even mentioned risk neutral, but we mentioned that for a particular reason that they use in stuff like expected value. Alright? But, so note that this is not necessarily a discussion on the various types of risk appetites. It is saying, look on the venture capitalist. Determine. Right. Alright. So is a VC a risk seeker? I'm just wondering. Alright. So the venture capitalist for the most part is trying to maximize return with minimum investment. I want to show them, for example, like a Shark Tank, and I can notice that they're willing probably to take some risk, but here's one of the things that you should recognize when you look at that. Sometimes you see the guys and say, that is too much risk. Have you patented the product? So, yeah, this is partially true. But here's what we expect from a venture capitalist. A venture capitalist will have a range of businesses. Agreed? You think all of them are going to be high risk? No. Chances are some will be low risk. Probably something like that. Some will be high risk. Some will be successful. And some will fail. We expect that to happen. Alright? We probably can't tell you off the top of their head which one will fail and which one will succeed. But the reason is that I have a balanced portfolio. So if one fails, I'm supposed to take us. Right? And similarly, if you notice again, the guys on the Shark Tank method investment. So it's not all of them panel, but it's a risk you're willing to take. So some will be successful, some will fail. You ever have a balance, you try to have your portfolio as balanced as possible, to have some, to put yourself in a situation where some of these will guarantee you some cash flow, some will guarantee you some high return, some will kind of play it safe, some will give magnificent return, and some won't give return. Alright? So you're unlikely to see any venture capitalists that them have skew everything one way. depending on the nature of their risk appetite, they will probably skew heavily towards taking risk, but that's not how we do it. All right. So when you ask you to do the assessment to say, well, if they are venture capitalists, chances are they could be risk seekers. What would make us think that they are risk seekers? They might take on a company. When I make no product yet, when I like to make no return anytime soon, that means there must be some level of risk seeker in there. But at the same time, why would you take that kind of risk there? Does it mean that somewhere in your portfolio you have something that can turn over the cash? Think about your DCG matrix. What is it? If you're looking at your portfolio, there must be a cash flow that will generate all them kind of money for you to take them kind of risk. So don't just simply end the argument by saying, and you can start the argument like that. There must be some level of risk seeker in there because the man want them to take on stories. Stories are not productive, you know. Right. I don't even think that stories have no customer yet. Right. No, I think that the partner with somebody when you kind of get the engine ready, but them not get it yet. Right? Them just say they are 2 years ahead of everybody else, as far as fuel cell is concerned, and 3 years away from launching. So they're not launch yet. All right. So it is a risk to go buy into someplace. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, it could bring that in. But here's what the venture capitalists also did. They put members management team. So even though they might take the risk by buying into this unknown quantity, they now play the fool. So they put them people on your management team and your board to say, we're not going to run the company in our interest. Alright? So it's not that they are they just spend money while they have money and don't know what to do with it. Them kinda, even though they might take a risk, them kinda put a little protection. And then overall for the venture capitalists, we assume that they would also, it's a fair assumption that we can make, that they have other things in their portfolio that even if Stokeness fail, them are right. So Stokeness now have a mash up them total portfolio. And Stokeness might still end up if it's successful help them in other things. Because they're not going to necessarily put things in the portfolio that it's something that we call hedging. Right? That you take risk from one extreme and you take risk from another extreme. Alright? So that if one fails, the other one can balance you out. Alright? And that's a fair assumption that we can make about the venture capital. Alright? So the first thing we're going to observe, them obviously have a bit of risk seeking around them, like everybody else that want to maximize return with investment. Alright? Why we say them risk seeking? Because here's it that they will buy one company. When I'm a product. You ever see anything say? Right? They buy a company when I'm a product. But they kind of cover it, and they put that in the argument as well. They kind of cover it by putting their management teams of experts in the company's management. Right? So then put the management team in there. That should help us to allay some of the fears. But we also expect that if Stokeness fails, it won't put them out of business. Because they're supposed to have other things that can cover Stokeness just in case it fails. Alright? Right, yeah. Yeah. And it says, and discuss how this might impact on performance management at Stokeness. Sorry, measurement at Stokeness. Yeah, I'll ask her to get me another publication. So we'll get on there. right? And how this might impact on performance measurement at Stokeness. Anything to do with performance. Anything to do with performance.
Well, depending on their appetite, if they are seeking, there is something to support that they were pushing them or pushing stores to basically get on with making the product. And this can cause them to, if they make it before they're ready to make it, can cause them to be inferior. Hence, once they're in the market that they define, whichever market they define, they can end up losing because the product is of no use.
Okay.
Or it could be hard judges in terms of if there is people, their standards could be high in terms of achievement. So could it be that what could be considered okay in another environment, obviously this thing and really okay. You're willing to take a higher risk?
Alright, let's not go that so far. Let's look at the risk that's to it. We said something a while ago, we're looking at the first part. You guys said it. Well, I said it, I don't know how to make it. Right? Stokeness not a product. True? And we said, but isn't that a risk? But also go further, alright? So let me remove something here. So no product, alright? Correct? No customer yet. But it's pure data, right? Launch date?
3 years.
Is 3 years time. Maybe. I'm going to say maybe is important, that's what I'm Alright? Do we? So look at this. If we look at this, couldn't it be that in 3 years' time we don't have no company? Yeah. Stokeness might dead. What will make Stokeness dead? Because they're not selling anything yet. Alright? Their cash flow or lack of it becomes important. No, sir? You don't have no money, you don't have no income coming in. How you sure that you're going to be around 3 years time? So for the VC, cash flow should be important. And if cash flow is important for the VCs because I don't want this company closed down because it has no money before it's ready to launch, I would put something in terms of measuring performance in terms of you must conform to the budget. You not earn the money, you're not going to overspend the budget becomes right. But again, the still have a guide, make one budget guide you. If you feel that you need more, you come back to the management team and you make a case. Right. But we now allow you to run with a free hand because this is not a company that is selling a current product.
It's almost like a project management kind of thing. Because if I'm gonna have to come back to you and say, okay, project sponsor, this is the situation, we need more money because we took on this engineer and this expertise that they're gonna get and whatever. And then you go back access and start and granting you some money. It must be like a project.
And a project is a good little example because the idea is that a project has specific things that it ties that it needs set as a success criteria. Time, quality, meeting the objective, and budget. Don't overspend. I remember a project was saying if you don't pass those three things, the project is considered a failure. So project is a very good example. And the reason why project is such a good example is because again, you're not selling anything yet. This is not a company that is trading, folks. This is a company that the idea is that I will trade after this period of development. I cannot allow you to just spend anything. Alright? So look at it from the venture capitalist position. I come and I buy a full company. So your company is called Stone. Alright? And I come to you and I say, yeah man, we have come with the greatest thing since sliced bread, what did that take 3 years? It's about 5 years take, but we're on 2 already, it's 3 more years. So when I give you my investment, what kind of guarantees should I put in place? Right? I have to find something. My concern is if you don't have enough funds, since your cash inflow is almost nil, the only thing that will be significant in terms of cash flow is the cash outflows. I need to be sure that money is around to get the project completed. So never set budgets. So you start to the performance measurement. Look at this other thing. We're talking about the project again. I never actually thought of it in terms of the project they brought it up. We're looking at it in terms of the project again. This is time. So launch date. One of the things that we do in project, so let's call it launch date. That it must be finished by them certain time there. One of the things we set in terms of project are the milestones tell us whether or not we are on track. So there are certain things that you must finish this by this time, you must finish it by that time, you must finish it by that time. So you will set up milestones. Alright? Part of the milestones would possibly even include state of contracts. Right? Because maybe you're not going to get any customers yet till you finish the thing, but also, even though that may happen, you should at least be in negotiation with some customers. That's all. So you start with how many contracts, how many customers you're in negotiation with. It's a performance measure there. Alright? That's performance measure. Alright? We can look at other things as well. We talk about it and since we're going along the project route. So see my budget here, see my time here, see my quality here. What can I set to measure? You're saying that this fuel cell, you see, is supposed to be every other thing out there. So it's supposed to be looking at stuff like reduced emissions, how much it reduces it by, who is it beating? And since you want engine, stuff need to be powered because these are commercial vehicles, bus. So we want to look at, say, the power being generated versus the price. So that we can go to these potential contractors and say, fuel cell is the way to go rather than petrol. Performance. And like I said, I actually did look at it from project perspective, but project perspective is an excellent way to look at it because the truth is that it is a project. So that's what the examiner is asking for that second part. Since we know that VCs are going to be facing these kind of risks. How will it impact the measures that they use? What kind of measures are they Alright? So again, if I pick it up from a project and start from that, but whether or not you even thought of it on that project, guess what? One of the very, very first things that must come to your mind, cash flow. How is it a company that is developing an engine that don't have no customer, don't have no income? How is it going to be around 3 years from now? Alright? To finally develop that product and launch. It means we need to think of something as the venture capitalist to monetize. Then look at the other thing. Then the launch date is in 3 years. Maybe it's in mid-year. I need to be able to make decisions. How can I ensure that it is 3 years? And if anything comes in the way that's going to stop it from being 3 years, I need think of measures I can put around that. And in terms of the quality, you promise this low emission, da 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 da, da 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 da. But obviously, nobody not going to buy a low emission engine if it cannot do the job. One of the problems that have stopped alternative cars from taking over from petrol is that the alternative cars not giving the power that the petrol gives at a price. But also, how many in here would I buy a hybrid, Toyota Priya? How much do I want to put up on that? I'm not buy it. Why am I not buy it? Too expensive, the price, and versus the power. Right? In the States, they have this image that the only persons who buy one of these cars are mothers who have a little picnic in the back of the car. So they're not hurry to get them. Alright? They need to protect them child, they need to be safe, and since you can't crash in a their car, not that you can't have an accident, but you're going so slow, you're supposed to keep a body on So without buying a one car, I can't get you from here to there quickly. This electric car thing now work. Alright? So we stick with the petrol. This is it here. That's what he's asking. Yeah, plug it in. Yeah, you have to charge it. Like when you charge your phone and your
like solar energy.
The electric car needs to be charged, regular charge. So you can plug it in there thing at your phone. Right? So I try to break it down in terms of what we can use to try to get to our answers. Right? You guys would have mentioned it as part of making a case for the VCs, trying to do your assessment on the risk appetite of the VCs. Alright? And you're going to say these things, don't forget them, don't ignore them. You just throw them away a while ago and say, what does that have to do with part B? It has everything to do with part B. Since we know that, what are the things then that should drive the venture capital? What are the measures they are likely to put in place? Some of them here. Alright? Questions? No, we don't do that. We're so much with that. Alright, questions? So you see the difference. Why is it that the pass pass marks are so low in P5. It's getting the requirements. The answers themselves are not earth-shattering. They are not Einstein answers. But you see, if you don't know the requirements, no matter where you write there, it's going to be wrong. As you can get the requirement wrong, anything you write. Right? So you really do, you have to spend time and understand what they're asking, right? And the only way to do it is to just do past papers. And you pick it up. Alright? Let me just ask Sharon for 2 more. Is it 2 more? 2 more documents. Alright, so let's look back at and it's one of the things that we talk about, for example, say broad forward knowledge. This is also sometimes the broad forward knowledge policy. And so you probably never see the P5 examiner say anything about project and project management that you learn about in P3, but it brings it. And as a matter of fact, I think for this question, and there's another one, not particular for part C, but I think for part A as well. But as I said, there's another one that we have on the list as well. You say, listen, if you answer using P3 here, so you get marks. So the P3 things come in, and you don't write a lot. There's not a lot of the answers where you put tutors note. If they come up with P3 answers, you get the marks. He doesn't do that often, but this was just a case where he could have used P3. Alright? Alright, so let's look at A now. Using Porter's 5 courses, the 16-mark question, because we did the 2 that were 9. Using Porter's 5 courses model, and remember we write on the inside, right? An assessment first, and then the management response, and then the measure. Alright? Assess the impact of the external business environment on the performance management of Stokeness, and give a justified recommendation of one new performance measure for each of the 5 courses areas at Stokeness. So let's say we start our 5 courses with first of your interest. Alright? It's alright. So what do we write here? So? Is it barriers or lower barriers?
And then it seems like it takes a lot of capital to get into this design development. So nobody has a really take that.
Yeah. One of the things is I think
So we
I'm not buying that market.
Alright.
So what we're going to say is that the market is fuel at this present point in time. Everybody are running from it. I'm going to make that show.
You're both right and both wrong. Right? The barriers, it's not an easy industry. It's not like me and you could have walked out of that industry. It costs a lot of money. It requires a lot of expertise. Right? So it's not that everybody can get into it. Right? But having said that though, there's really nothing to stop persons who are expert and have money from getting into the industry. Alright? And particularly if you read the case, it says the only time a barrier kind of comes in is that the customers sign a long-term contract with you. So you could probably argue that the barrier is low up to a point before you get the contract, before you do the development. Alright? But once you sign a contract with a vehicle, a commercial vehicle manufacturer, it's almost for life. So the new entrant can't get you out. You get what I'm saying? So it's low up to a point, and then after you sign that contract, you're locked in. No new entrant can get you out. So for example, for Stokeness, what they need to do is get that contract. And when they get that contract, nobody can touch them. But for now, before a contract, they could be in danger that somebody could get them. Oh, right, yeah. Right, yeah.
So where's that part about the contract?
Alright, the vehicle manufacturer, the second paragraph. Alright, the alternative power technologies would be fitted by major international vehicle manufacturers into their vehicle for sale to their customers. The vehicle manufacturers will need to form a close partnership with any engine producer in order to make their technologies compatible, and this has already begun to happen with two of the major manufacturers signing deals with one engine makers recently. Yeah, but until you sign the deal, anybody can get you. You see what I'm saying? Right? No, but all they're saying is that it's open up to a point, but then once you sign the deal, you're okay to a point. I think there's a part further it talks about the infrastructure. And we can also bring that part as the argument that they will be 2 years ahead of any new entrant. So it wouldn't be easy for a new entrant to come in. Alright?
If you're talking about geography, so you can also say I don't know why you think
Right. So that's what really makes the difference here is the arrangement, the agreement, the contract that you sign with the commercial vehicle manufacturer, right? Which means that you kind of have a customer for whatever the period of that contract is, and they don't look at anybody else for that period. They're not interested in any other supplier for that period. All right. So once the contract is signed, you are good for whatever the period. Alright? So any new entrants, and look at it in terms of the number of commercial customers. How many of those are there? You wouldn't have a lot. So if everybody don't sign up with somebody already, what will happen to the new entrants? You're going to sit down and wait till one next period. Alright? So that's why we're saying that yes, up to a point it kind of yeah, free flow, a little easier to get in, but after the person get the contract, you are going to be getting the work as well. Yeah. All right. All right. So that would have been the assessment. All right. We need to do something else. What should the management do, or come up with a performance measure, the performance manager, a new performance measure. So based on what we just learned, all right. Tell me what the management needs to do. Let's do this.
They can go to some of the vehicles, because there's like two major ones are designed. Go to some of the vehicle manufacturers, pitch their product, and then show where they're going to try and get a potential future contract or something like that. I mean, if they have, if nothing has already been developed and persons can get manufacturers designed, I think that's a possibility that it can be done.
Right.
So they can go and advertise based on supporting evidence that nothing has already been developed and persons are doing it.
Okay. All right.
They come to the transform association.
Yeah, that's all right. That's the same thing. Yeah.
No, but it says that two major manufacturers already signed. And remember that they're saying that store is 2 years ahead of everybody else, which means that nobody knows what the product. But you have persons willing to sign.
People are signed already, right?
It is a possibility that it can happen.
Yeah.
So if you can say it's like 3 years down the line and we're the closest, the best person to go to, we have partnership with somebody that has special things that are needed to put in ourselves, and we can cut down emissions by this amount. Work with us. They will sign because the case here already opens it up to us that it is a possibility to get it signed, so why not try?
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Someone was asking about measure. Come here, you think about the measure, you can also think about what the management can do.
Yeah.
What we can measure. All right, here's working with us. What kind of industries is? We said something earlier. We're not connecting on the thoughts, No, but you said something that what that person said. Because you were trying to defend the Bible, state Bible. So what do you measure then?
The cost to create your cells? Or the cost of selling the vehicle?
No, some cost. What kind of cost? Development cost. Yeah, right? Because one of the things we said that makes it difficult for new entrants to come in is the development cost. Right? But how do we, so we need to put some measurement around that. So you could look at, for example, cost. You could look at patents. Because if you have patents, nobody can. If you say you're 2 years, everybody, Desiree mentioned about China copying onto your patents, then shouldn't you be putting patents to make sure that every little thing you want to come up with, patented so nobody can copy it without paying the royalty?
Sir, it is kind of hard to speak on patents, though, given that they said that the same, they partnered with some persons with a special membrane, and they basically had to share all the information.
That no will upbring who them I work with their supplier. That's not your supplier. It is the market for a supplier.
They have everything for us already. Right. Unless we have already patented the thing, we're lose.
So for barriers to entry, we're interested in. We're ready to discuss that point. We're going to put it in bargaining. Right. So probably what the management should be doing is making sure that every little thing with them do, they are patented. So somebody's job in that company must be, guys, have we been to the patent office yet? Alright? That is one of the actions that the management will take in regards to that particular. The barriers to entry. So your concern about being working with suppliers is a valid point in what we're going to bring that up in supplier. It still don't prevent us from writing what we just wrote in the barrier to entry section. Alright? So but cost is a good thing, as I said, for example, to manage. Because if the cost continues to be high, the expectation is that it should deter new entrants to come in because they need that large initial upfront investment to get into the market. So you could probably monitoring trends and costs, that kind of thing. Alright? Alright, since you brought up supply, let's look at supply now then. Alright, what about the bargaining power of suppliers? High, low, strong, wherever it's working. And based on what? Which position you take. So it says where the supplier part again, where the supplier paragraph there. About the fifth paragraph? Yeah. Production of stokeless fuel cells uses a special membrane that requires rare and expensive elements. Also, it has partnered with 2 other engineering firms to subcontract the production of certain components in the fuel cell. Stokeless has had to share much of its fuel cell design with these firms in order to overcome certain engineering difficulties. Alright. So, yes, what about the bargaining power of the supplier? Why?
The person that they're partnering with is 2 companies. So I said to me, see that there are only 2 persons that they can turn.
Alright, take it one thing at a time, so we can see the maths that you guys are getting. So the very first thing, let's talk about say the special membrane. So talk about the special membrane. The special membrane is rare and expensive. That alone I tell you, the supplier of that special membrane are not power. And since it's rare, what about times when it's not available? The supplier more than likely just raise the price on you and say, why are you about it? And so this won't be able to do anything about it. So don't say that, finish with it, then go to the 2 people. So don't try to do all of them in one pronouncement. Take it one bit at a time. Talk about the special membrane first. Done with that. And I don't think any of us in here are hard to say the special membrane supplier no high. High. It's rare and it's expensive. The supplier's power sounds very high. Next thing now, we're going to the 2 engineering firms. Alright, and I talk about those. And the 2 engineering firms help them with some certain components in their fuel cell. And what has happened is that they have to share their design with these engineering firms. What's the problem with that? They can easily turn from your supplier to your competitor. Yeah. Alright, and that is the concern there. So again, don't try and just overcomplicate it. Just keep it very, very, very simple. Just take each part and walk over. Alright? Because for that you could easily have just written 2 sentences. Right, but no. Since it's stokeless we're doing it for, we have to put ourselves in stokeless. I imagine we are stokeless. Who are the suppliers to us? And then we look at the buyers, we say, who are the buyers from us? Alright? So we're doing a Porter's 5 forces, we put ourselves in the position of the company. Waiting there, think about it. Alright, so we'd have saved that for the buyer power. Alright, so we're good? So we just write those 2 things and we're done. Now we need to come up with measures and what the management is supposed to do. Alright? So in terms of measures, and sometimes probably easier, sometimes you can come up with which either one first. If the measures will allow you to think about what the management will do, you can come up with the measures first, so at least you can think about what the management will do. Sometimes you don't need the measures, you can think about what the management will do. Right? But let's start with the measures. How do you measure this power of the supply? Or say about five forces. In five forces, they say we know when the supplier is powerful when there are few. So one of the things we could measure is the number of suppliers. Yeah. If there's one supplier, for example, for that rare something, you're dead. Somebody can try to argue with it, you're dead. Right? If there are a lot of them, yeah, we should. But we'll still use that as a measure. Alright? So we have that. What else could we use to measure the power of supply? You know, there are companies, right, that are dependent on suppliers, even though there are many suppliers in the industry. How do we know? We can look at how much of your raw material comes from that one supplier. That's a measure. So if you look at the total cost for raw material, we look at that supplier's percentage of that total cost. If it is a significant percentage, we are heavily dependent. And if you notice one of the COVID measures, we started thinking in your head what management can do. You can look at ways that you can find alternative suppliers. You can monitor who are the suppliers who are available. You can, when you monitor the percentage that you do with a business that you do with a particular supplier, you try to see if there's some other supplier out there who could assist, so you don't become so dependent on that supplier. Alright, so now you can see. So if you notice it with that, when we come up with the measure first, we can come up with the things that the management can do. Right? So sometimes it's useful to come up with the measure first. And the measure can kind of lead you. Yeah. Alright? What about the bargaining power of the buyer? Is it strong, weak? Right, okay. What about when you sign the contract with them? Is it still strong? Depends on the right. Because apart from any escape clause that made the contract, they kind of dependent on you. But you also kind of dependent. Remember, is their customer, the engine, the fuel cell persons are their customers are who? The manufacturer thing, right? Alright, so their customers are the engine manufacturers, nobody else. Alright? So they're not deal with so they're not the customers. So the engine producer is Stokes, yeah. Alright? So this one also is something like that we were talking about, say, the barrier to entry. Look at it before you sign the contract and after you sign the contract. Before you sign the contract, it kind of up for grabs. They can't go to anybody. There are not a lot of them, so it might mean that they too have power. When you sign the contract, they're kind of tied to you for whatever the deal is. But because you have worked so closely with them, there's also the possibility that these customers could learn the secret and also go in competition against them. Just as we said for the suppliers, that the suppliers could become producers, so could the customers. Yeah. Because in both cases, you have to be working very closely with those partners. Alright? So the customers could again get into it if they want to. And remember, these are big companies. So there's no saying that, oh, they're not going to do it. They're big. They have money to spend. They can do it if they want to. Right, most of the time they don't, right? Yeah. Yes, it might not. Right. Alright. So yeah, I think overall we can say the customers kind of have a little power, right, over stores. Alright. What kind of measures we could put in? Kind of measures. I think what's the way just right for suppliers? We're always saying, bargaining for the buyer, bargaining for the supplier. It's just a flip side of each other. So guess what? Any measure you use for one, we can technically use a version of it for the other one. Yeah. So if we use numbers, use what numbers? Right? That kind of thing. Which now means that we need to ask the question, what is it that management must do? Yeah? Try to find ways to lock them in as long as possible. Yeah. Try to find ways to lock them in as long as possible. So that brings in good negotiation skills and all.
So, but the locking in cannot also be a bad thing for us because depending on the contract, they might say yes, you supply us, but you can't supply anyone else.
They may very well do that. Or it may also be at a certain price that whatever the period locked in for, that the price don't change significantly. Which if we never did so lock in, maybe we're gonna get better price later on. Right? So it's a double-edged sword for us. You just lock them in for? Sell to other people. That again, that all come down to some very careful negotiation. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. But the good part about locking in now, is that they stop any new entrants from trying to come get them from you later on. Right? But it can act as a little hazard against you in the sense that now you're tied into these people, and part of what they may say, since we're giving up, thinking about some other supplier, you will have to go give up thinking about any other customer. Right? So it might be good or it might be bad. So you're just right that as part of your issues. Alright? And we're ready now. The substitutes. Yeah, how we measure substitutes now?
Depends on the industry.
One of the things we could start said depends on the industry. The industry of fuel cells, right? Then the substitutes would be the other things, right? And then we can do a measurement from this. Alright? So measurements. How do we measure if substitutes are a threat to us? Market share. Well, market share could work. We could figure out later on how we measure it, but you can suggest that that's the point. Right? But what else? Is there anything else?
We could look at the motor vehicle industry and measure how many vehicles they have now using the different types of engines, whether alternative or using petrol, to see what percentage of it we are operating or we are operating within and what percentage of it actually has overall market for engines.
Right. Yeah, so those things can help us. What basically I want to test is if the substitutes are gaining ground. If the substitutes not gaining ground, we're still ahead of that. If substitutes are gaining ground, you have to worry about it. One of the things that will make the substitute gain ground, we have mentioned some stuff out here. Reduce emissions and power price. Alright? Depending on whichever market we're. Yeah. Right. So So what you're going to write is you're going to measure all of these things because it depends on how you do your market. All of them may be substitutes. Later on, we'll get to competitive driver. We could say all of them are your competitors, all of them are your substitutes, or whatever the story. Yeah. Oh, okay. Alright. So remember, what makes us make something a substitute or a competitor in a competitive rivalry has to do with the industry. Alright? So for us in writing this, by the way, you put up, for example, say if your industry is fuel, then everything is a substitute. Or you could keep it vague to say anything that is not your industry, you need to monitor it. You need to see whether or not their market share is going up. You need to see whether they are reducing their emissions lower than your fuel cells. You need to see if they are generating more power at a given price than you are. Alright? So in that way, you don't even have to mention it, they keep it. Alright? And you do the same thing with a competitive rival. So that thing you say yourself a competitive rival. Oh, did we decide on what the management is going to do? Is that? So the measures, based on what our measures are, all the management has to do is to monitor those, right? To see where our engineering work is going in terms of our level of emissions that we're emitting and those kind of things. Alright? And in terms of the competitive rivalry, right? So your competitors could be fuel cell, and if a fuel cell, we're kind of we are ahead of everybody else. If our industry is alternative, then you need to also pay attention to what they are doing. Again, so that you can see if you can remain ahead. Outside of these, yeah. Alright. Porter actually, well, there are those who told Porter probably should have included a 6 force in there. Or case again. Government is kind of another force that can affect the competitive position. Yeah. They could, right? So if they make legislation or encouraging through brands those kind of things, then you can get more people coming in less sources. Alright? So you get a sense now of a lot of these things that you're supposed to know how he interrogates the topic. Yeah. Alright? He doesn't ask it just the normal way. Right? He wants you to do some amount of work and think about it. But if you don't really get into, you don't really get into things that talk about what are the advantages of this and what are the disadvantages of that. You don't really do them something. Right. Occasionally you'll get a few questions around what the phrase that way. You just have to know the little nuances about the theory, about the topic, and bring it to the floor. Alright? So it's not about just simply something what is in your book and what is in not going to help you. It's not going to help you. You need to sit and pick up things. When you read it and pick up things. Alright? Alright, look at the second one. Oh yeah, when I'm breaking, huh? Alright, let's take a break and then come back. So unless I want to break, I'm not saying nobody I get up and stretch. Let's talk out of the brain. Yeah, it was recorded in that. I will send a link. Yeah. Yeah, man, it was already.
You can be, no, you can be, yeah, kind of go like down there. Maybe in about 2 hours or 1 hour. Yeah. Remember, we tell Colin to come in.
Can't go to sugar rush because we just eat the sugar rush we did this week. Probably drink some water.
Waking up early. Got sun is coming over. Picking up early in the morning, and then we got two persons from church coming over. Before then, my son. Now, because it's everybody on the program. But I have to cook myself to prepare for them early.
All right. Everybody ready for part two? All right, let's take a look on question two. Mexico. Yeah, man, Mexico. She apologized? She apologized? That's what she said? And they got in. But they me never realized. But her hand did it on its own. Her hand never realized. Yeah. It's a hurdle. Right. It's our sister service, right? Right. Right after the race. We see it, I was like, what? No man, that's a deliberate backswing. That's a, yeah, that's a, That's what box is. It's not that you're so into the zone that you know it's a box. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And you know the TV cameras always at 2 yeah. Exactly. After the race. Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, we refuse to accept for the dark. It looks very deliberate. Yeah.
But the cameraman that sit down was that was deliberate. That was not accident.
No, it goes by the team and the team licking back up. Yeah.
Why was he there? Oh, the other cameraman then behind a bar.
No, man, it was a takeaway cameraman. Yeah.
He was focusing on board instead of looking where he was going.
Never realized he was behind him, right?
And he started to turn on and drop him before it was when he fell and then he was to show the thing. It was and both turned over. And never even people hold on for him back. They don't leave and he fell.
All right, ready? So it's good that we mention some technology. If you notice, technology there everywhere, including in our questions. So look at page 3. All right. Look at the requirements. A. Assess the impact of the radio frequency identification devices (RFID) system on the performance management at Quark, as suggested by the CFO, for 12 marks. Before we go too deep in that, look at B. Evaluate whether the overall management of the hospital can be considered to be leaner as a result of the RFID information system, for 7 marks. And then C, evaluate how the medical staff's attitudes will influence the design and implementation of the RFID system and how it might be used to promote responsibility and accountability at the hospital, for 6 marks. All right, total 25. So let's go back to A. Assess the impact of the radio frequency identification devices, RFID system, on the performance management at Quark, as suggested by the CFO. What does that mean? Mm-hmm.
What should management do? I like to remedy our team on top of things.
Okay. So basically it's asking you, does RFID change anything for the management? Will they have to do something different? Will they have to not have anything to do differently? Whatever the story. And you look at all the ways that it will affect. Yeah. Right? Will information be available online? Maybe the management use a higher team to go do stock taking. Will they need to do stock taking? That kind of thing. So yes, that's what will the management do? All right, all based on the impact that this will have on how things are done at work. All right. When we read the case, we'll see more. So if you notice, for the most part, you could view this as a case assessment. There are options to bring in knowledge, yes, but you need to look at the case. Alright? B says evaluate whether the overall management of the hospital can be considered to be leaner as a result of the RFID information system. What does that one mean?
If it makes any sense that this system, if there's any improvement,
Yeah. So is there an improvement in efficiency? Lean systems, is there somebody else that asked earlier about what Toyota?
Yeah, you know the ACC did an article on it. I saw it.
Right. So it has to do with Toyota production. Most of these things we're here talking about processes and at Toyota or Japan they come from. In particular, it's really Toyota most of them come from. Right? And a system is considered to be lean, as somebody mentioned about efficiency, if it gets the right things to the right place at the right time the first time. Yeah, you cut down on waste, right? Yes. Alright? So it's those kind of things. So it means then, when you start to read the case, look at what has been happening, and look if a lean system actually did that. That's getting things to the right place at the right time, the very first time. Does it will eliminate waste, redundancies, those kind of things, and improve efficiency. Alright? You could also bring in here the 5 S's. Right. That has to do with lean systems. Structurize, alright, which means that define ways to put everything in order. Systemize, to put things in the right place for easy retrieval. Right, what's the next one? Sanitize, clean up, make things tidy. Alright, so you're not cluttered all over the place, yeah. And standardize, right, yeah. So standardize, it means that you remain consistent with your processes and those kind of things that you place. And the last one, alright, self-discipline, alright, standardize. No, structurize is different from standardize. Standardize does mean being consistent, and self-discipline means the control. Alright? You go back over and you kind of look back at the things and ensure that they are being done correctly. Alright, where controls are not being followed, they go back and talk back to people and get the things to work again. Alright? So as they're talking about lean systems, we normally bring in the 5 S's. Alright, and we normally bring in the definition that we gave earlier. Talk about reduction in waste, improvement in efficiency, about the right things to the right place at the right time the first time. Alright? All of those are part of the Toyota system developed by Toyota Motors. Alright? So we can look in the case for that as well. So here's a nice example where we can bring in knowledge and application. Alright? And C asks us to evaluate the medical staff's attitude, how the medical staff's attitude will influence the design and implementation of the RFID system and how it might be used to promote responsibility and accountability at the hospital. Any ideas there?
If the staff really accept change.
Okay. Yeah, go on. You just staff really accept the change.
And how their attitude will influence
right.
things working.
Right. So build on a point. If the staff readily accept it, what if they don't readily accept it? How do we get them to accept it? So probably like participation, so they will develop ownership for it and that kind of thing. Right, yeah. So look at it from both sides. Culture for sure. And lead system normally means changing the culture. What we're going to have to do is look at the case, but there are specific references in the case where we help you with that, right? So it will tell you about the staff's attitudes. And therefore that tell you that this is what you have to feel anything. I'm not really involved in people here because the last time I tried something like this is what happened, so you need to know. And then right, and then here about promoting responsibility and accountability. Here's one of the things we always say in P5. We don't want people being held accountable for things that's right that they don't have no control over. So we're going to look at it to see if we can see evidence of that as well. You know, in a sense, you assign something and then tell them people are responsible for it and therefore accountable for it when people above them are overruling the thing. Alright, so look if we see anything like that in the case. That's they're right on it. Alright? Alright, let's take a look at the case on page 2. Quark Healthcare, known as Quark, runs a number of large hospitals which provide general medical care for the people of VLAN. VLAN is an advanced economy and healthcare is considered to be a high-skilled, high-technology and high-status industry. It is compulsory for the people of VLAN to purchase health insurance, and then the insurance companies reimburse the healthcare providers for services delivered. The insurance companies audit the healthcare providers and grade them for value for money. There are a number of hospital chains, such as Quark. The insurers will encourage their insured customers to use those which are most efficient. The ultimate sanction for a healthcare provider is for an insurance company to remove them from the list of acceptable providers. All right? So that's the first paragraph. You look to see if you really learn anything from each, because each one's supposed to tell you something. What do you think we learn from this? Right. Right. We learn who Quark is. Right. And we learn of it. Right. And we learn of the sanction. Right. The contract. Because the idea is that you need to be efficient and effective at your job, a service that you provide, or else you could be delisted from the insurance provider. Right, but you not tell us anything. Alright, look at the second paragraph. Quark has a large number of capital tied up in expensive medical equipment and a drug inventory. The existing systems for accounting for these items are traditional ones aimed at avoiding theft and obsolescence. Quark has an inventory system which requires regular or weekly physical checks of the drugs in inventory in order to update it. It is important that the right drugs must be easily accessible through accessible stores located throughout the hospital in order to act quickly in case of a medical emergency. Also, the accounting staff at Quark maintain a non-current asset register, NCAR, which logs the location of all major assets, including medical equipment. The problem with the non-current asset register is that it is often out of date, as doctors will take equipment in time of emergency and not properly log its new location. This often leads to equipment lying unused in one area of the hospital while being searched for in another area to the detriment of patient care. Alright, anything we learned there?
The controls for working with the non-current assets is not tight.
Right.
And basically it may cause them to be sanctioned as stated by part 1 of first paragraph.
Right, alright, anything else?
Large amount of inventory.
Right.
And it is important that the drugs are easily
right? And don't go obsolete either, because you don't want to give people, yeah, a job when has lost its effectiveness and that kind of thing there, right? Things are being misplaced, the controls are manual ones, those kind of things. So start thinking about things. A lot of these things, that second paragraph tells us a lot that there's a lot of manual stuff that is happening. So think about the RFID now that is ready to requirement. So one of the things, if the RFID is as we think in your head, it must be meaning that get rid of a lot of the manual things. Yeah. All right. Quark has recently instituted a tagging project where radio frequency identification devices, or RFID, will be attached to the most valuable pieces of equipment used in treatment and also to batches of high value drugs. The hospitals are fitted with Wi-Fi network, which can pick up the RFID signals so that the RFID tags will be detectable throughout the hospital. The tags will identify the object which they are attached to by a unique identification number and will give its location. The tags will identify, the identifier number will link to the inventory system, which will identify the product, the quantity initially delivered in that batch, and the date of delivery. The RFID information will be accessible through the computer terminals throughout the hospital. What is that third paragraph telling us? Right. So a lot of the updates will be done automatically, right? And a lot of that information will be readily available. You have computer terminals throughout the hospital, so you can quickly take and say, find out where this thing is, where this thing is. Alright? So it's kind of, you start thinking, oh, alright, fine, that's kind of look like we kind of do a little, maybe a little structurized, maybe a little systemized as well, maybe taking place there. Alright? So you start to get something. You also look at the second paragraph, and a lot of those manual stuff will now be automated. You can know where the thing is without hesitation. Alright? The fourth paragraph, the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer of Quark, has asked you to advise him on the impact of this new system on performance management at Quark. He has suggested that you look at the costs and benefits which will be associated with producing the information from the RFID system, the impact of the nature of the information supplied, the changes to the performance management reporting, and how the new information could be used for improved control at the hospital. Now, I don't finish read that paragraph yet, but I feel that I need to ask one question here. So, you didn't read any of them requirements there to figure out saying if you put any of them things in there. When I read it, I never thought about the cost of benefits. Because it just said to me, assess the impact of the radio frequency on the performance management. When I look at B, there's not about the cost and benefits either, and C, not about the cost and benefits. But he realized that he's asking for it here. And it relates, because he said, he's asking to advise him on the impact. That's part A of the requirements. Alright? And he has suggested that you look at cost and benefits. Put that in your answer for part A. And then go through the other things that you could put in part A. So, he might try to tell you, just in case you weren't clear as to what he wants you to do, see him expounded there. Alright? Alright, so continuing, where was I again? He's keen to be seen at the forefront of accounting and management developments, and I've been reading about cost control techniques. Recently, he heard about lean systems. So you know, since I got to the part B of the question now, you see? So you give the first clue related to A, the next one is related to B, and the might be some. That's your example. Alright? So lean systems now. So wants to know how the RFID system and its impact on the hospital fit with this concept. Given the importance of the medical staff in running the hospital, He also wants to know how their behavior will be affected by the control information from the RFID system. The part C there. You see? A, B, C. Break it up. Now, if you answer it and you not give him no cost benefit analysis in your party, you have just lost. You have to stop earlier. Something like, was it 2 or 3 marks? Because him actually put more marks, mind you, on more, because there are more areas that he could pick up the marks. But he say, if you write about cost benefits, you get 3. Which means you write about it, you get that 3. Alright, but he could still pick up from other areas as well. There is a strict social order. So look on the staff attitude now. There is a strict social order among these staff in increasing order of skills, nurse, general doctors, and specialist doctors, which regularly causes friction when one group feels it is not given its due status. So for example, recently the general doctors agreed to a new method for nurses to record drugs administered to patients, but this new system has not been fully implemented due to the complaints by the nurses and the specialist doctors who were not consulted on the change. Which means then you have to look at it. You see what happens when you put in things and you don't get them input. Right. Same thing will happen with the RFID. So immediately you should start thinking that if you don't involve them in designing the RFID and get them buying a lump of those. Alright, you just spend all of that money putting on Wi-Fi and all the place for no reason because it then not going to work with it. Alright, that is guiding your answer. Alright, this is how your P5 examiner asks. Alright, always look for the clarification to the requirements of the case. They are there. Alright, so even when you're doing your requirements analysis and you're not quite clear or you have a little doubt, just still go back and read the case. That will explain it further. Or you should write your answer. So we'll go back to A now to assess the impact of the radio frequency identification devices system on the performance management at Quark as suggested by the CFO. And note what it says here, as suggested by the CFO. You need to find in the case where the CFO has made the suggestion. Yeah. You need to go find it. He said, as such. So he's not asking you as a general, as an examiner, ask you a question. He said, as suggested by the CFO. Alright? So you know when I first thing I start with, when I answer the question, I do my cost and benefit first. Alright? No, they have not given us any specific cost in there, but that still don't stop you from writing about it. Yeah, just be general. So it's more than likely it'll cost some money. Okay, we have to go buy server and software and whatever, put up your Wi-Fi thingy about the place, so that's a cost. Right? And then now have to look at the benefits to see if it'll provide for, let's say, quicker retrieval of information, easier access, more accurate information, those kind of things, reduce on manual work, then those would have been some of the benefits. And we could go further, improve customer care, because then you can find emergency stuff when you need it, them kind of thing there. Yeah, you can know if they're there or not, so those would be some of the benefits. So you can look at it from that. Alright, so I would start right there, and I would say that. And it's a generic thing where I say because they're not giving us specifics, so we must can't get that 3 marks. Alright? Alright, what we're going to look at next, if we're at the part A. Follow the things. Exactly. The nature of the information. What do you think is the nature of the information? What do you think is the nature of the information that the RFID have provided?
Clarify nature.
Alright, work with what is in your head. I will say it. Come on, your understanding first. Let's look at the case. What second paragraph say versus what third paragraph say?
More accurate information.
More accurate information.
And specific information in terms of one particular item. So for part C, part C for the third paragraph, it's telling you all the benefits of what the system will do, as opposed to paragraph 2, all the problems that they have. So one of the problems that they have is that they can't locate an item. With this system, they can usually locate and identify what item is actually out of place and what quantity of it is out of place and where it's coming from as opposed to where it went to. Also, based on the system here, you can track the drugs, if it's easily accessible. See, and we're thinking about the facts of expiry dates. With this being in the system, we'll know the expiry dates, can easily track when it's going to be expired from or not.
Okay.
We have a problem with customers in terms of, because whatever item you're looking for is one location and you're searching for another from another location. Customers are suffering, so as I said, improve customer service and better value for money. And if you're looking at the sanctions by part 1, if it's better value for money, then they won't be delisted.
Okay, all right. So let's get back a little to the second part to talk about the nature. What is it? The impact of the nature of the information supply. All right. In the case it had mentioned stuff about accounting systems, right? The RFID system, will it be provided any accounting information? Well, if accounting means financial, no, it wouldn't be providing us with any financial. But it would provide us with probably like inventory stuff. Yeah, right. So it would provide us with inventory stuff. It would provide you with stuff around obsolescence, right? And it would provide you with location information, because now we know where the equipment will be located. All right. So it will provide us with those kind of stuff. All right. And of course, the difference between it, because it's really kind of do the same thing that the manual thing are doing. Right. It's just that it will just be quicker. It will be immediate. It will be more accurate. It will be online. It will be real time. Right. Yeah. Right. Versus the manual process, which you might have to do. What you call it, stop taking, now you do your thing, whatever, go check, and then update it. So whenever we don't really have an accurate position until we stop taking. Alright? So that speaks to that, and I will put right that as part of our answer in terms of a set of stuff that it will provide. Alright? When you look at, for example, like the reporting requirements now, what will it do? What about those drug things? Mention, for example, that the drugs that it have put an RFID on a batch of the drugs. It says that there is currently in the regular system, there's a physical or weekly physical checks of the drug in inventory in order to update it. Will we have to stop doing that, or will we still do it? Right. Because remember, the RFID is like, imagine that I have this batch, and I might have 100 drugs in there. The RFID is on this bag, not on the drugs inside it. So if you pull it, it can update the system until, let's say, you pull batch number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which have 100 things in there. But it won't tell me how many will be left in there. Right, yeah. Right. So we still have to do it, but it can give me updated information in the sense that I understand which batch is currently being used and that kind of thing, and can also relate it, of course, to the, as we said earlier, the obsolescence date and that kind of thing there. So we can know if we can stop using that batch there because the date passed or whatever thing. Right? So in terms of reporting, but we still have to actually do that weekly check there. Alright? Yeah, benefit is just probably a little faster information, but we actually can't get rid of the weekly check unless we have a label, each of the items in the yeah. Yeah, you kind of have to do the check, yeah. So you actually need to mention that part, that guess what? Physically, you still have to do that check. Probably no, probably doesn't have to be, but it's just a goal to eliminate it. Yeah. Alright? Yeah. More often. It's just a high valued one. Yeah. And it's really the high valued one. The ones that you really should monitor. Everybody don't want to keep the high valued ones. Right? So that's why I bring in a little control over it. So probably you still have to check. Right? Because remember, the RFID still now tell you how many out of that batch you use. Alright? It's just that if you see another batch full, you're going to make the assumption say the first batch was done. Right? So so based on that, you just take the guide what the CEO says, and just take each part, break it down, write your stuff. Alright? And that is the impact, as it asks for, the impact of RFID on the performance management platform. So if they have read AIO1, then what the hell is he asking me to do? Right? That is what he's asking me to do. Just listen to what the CEO said. I mentioned about 3 or 4 parts, and you write about those 3 or 4 parts. Get them one at a time. Alright? Clear? Questions? Alright, what about me? Evaluate whether the overall management of the hospital can be considered to be leaner as a result of the RFID information system. Now look at what they say. You probably have to say, how do I start this thing? Again, read what the CEO says. The CEO says, where is it about? He recently heard about lean systems. So really no, he's not an expert on it yet. So you could write a little thing explaining what lean systems. So once the CEO just hear about it or the CFO, you can write one little thing. If they know it already, don't know. If you notice, for example, the one we did with Porter's 546. This was a CEO, another one there, right? Right. She said she used it already. Then why would I tell her that Porter's 546 is and it measures it? No. She know about it already and she uses it already. Not tell her nothing about it. This is a guy now said. Me we hear about it like it's so like you know walk down the passage and hear somebody say yeah. So you kind of tell him what it means. Alright? See the difference? Alright. So that will be like the first thing that you put down. Say what it is. Alright? If you remember, say a Toyota it comes from, you write that. If you don't remember, say a Toyota, just say what it is. Alright? Because the Toyota part are really short, So if you don't really remember, say a Toyota it comes from, say no about that. Right? Next thing you say a Honda. Right? And it's not Honda. It's Toyota. So you really want to say that it is about getting the right things to the right place at the right time, the first time. It is about minimizing waste and improving efficiency. Alright? And then one of the things then after that now then you can go into say, well, organizations tend to be considered leaner because one of the ways that you apply the lean system is through the 5 S's. And then you take each of those 5 S's now and see. Alright? The RFID, we don't really, and actually this one doesn't really give us most information, but if it works the way it is supposed to work, we could make a case that the organization could be. Right? Because one, it's all about structurize. You're bringing in order to things. Alright? Which means that you have to identify places. Since you talk about the RFID, I can tell if a gurney is out of place, if a bed is out of place, if that is out of place, then it means that if you put that in, it means that what you have done is set up a structure. We talk about sanitize. Let's get systemized, sanitize. To make the place tidy. Right now, what happened to all the equipment? They're all over the place. Nobody don't quite know. That's not tidy. The idea behind the RFID is that it's supposed to make the things tidy. Absolutely. Actually, if it works in the sense that because it's a control system and if people disobey the control, right? Because remember the last part of the 5 S's is the self-discipline. Then I discipline you. So if Desreen is responsible for the gurnings and the RFID system are telling me that I'm out of place, then who may have blame? And then we come down to you and say you need to make sure so them all in at the right place. And if it works because you don't want the discipline every minute, you have to ensure that they're in the right place. So it should lead to that. Yeah. So it should lead to that. Alright? It won't necessarily, it's not that I'll just do it because we just put it in today. And then suddenly the place tidy. It is the control mechanism that comes with it that will make it tidy. Alright, so that would explain the self-discipline part. Right? Where we say the systemize. Systemize makes it should make it easy to use. So you just mentioned something when I said you were in charge, you said you should know where they are about easy to use. Because it depends on computer monitors throughout the hospital. So everybody can go up on the monitor and say, where is it? Find out where it is. Easy to use. Standardize. Have the same behavior being repeated over and over and over. Anywhere you go, this is what we expect. This is what we're going to hold you accountable, blah, blah. It's the same thing every single time. Alright? So it can actually it can actually make the system make work leaner if it works the way it's supposed to work. We don't have any evidence that it's leaner yet, but it's supposed to make it leaner if it is being implemented the way it's talking about.
You know what I'm saying? Like the objective is like to keep on that on their head, not to be thrown off, right? That thing, right?
Right.
So the objective is to stay. So the reason why we get this thing to help us to stay on the list.
Right, yeah.
So and they will be looking at the rate of death and stuff
Right.
down to
Probably a little too wide, but I'm thinking about it. I'm saying that Asa will probably give you marks still, because what he had wanted you to use was lean systems. But if you address it, say, from that perspective, you still kind of answer the question, because remember, one of the very things we mentioned at the top is that lean is supposed to be doing what? Getting the right things to the right place at the right time, the first time. It's about minimizing waste and it's about improving efficiency. So that's one way to see the results, seeing that you get, say, better patient care and those kind of things. So that's one way to see the results. So even though you may not necessarily would have gotten necessarily, say, the full mark since he was expecting, he would have given it a mark. Because that's a way to also measure it. Alright? But when you give, just as a general comment, if you realize it's a lean systems question, he wanted to put in that definition in there and he wanted to use the practice. Alright? So if it's a lean question, it's kind of looking for that. Again, but because of the flexibility, the flexible nature of the question, if you answer it, just like Natalia answered here a while ago, chances are you probably will get it. Alright? Even though you wouldn't have used the practice. Alright? Because the idea is that you just want to decide whether or not they appear legal. Yeah. Right, yeah. Yeah, kind of, yeah, something around that, yeah, yeah. Alright? So this one you could have actually gotten the marks without using. Alright? And then the last one, evaluate how the medical staff's attitude will influence the design and implementation of the RFID system and how it might be used to promote responsibility and accountability at the hospital. Yeah. So even that part there about even the self-discipline, right, that's right, yeah. That would come in there because that's what we're doing, right. We're going to say, is the nurses, is Desiree, is Sharon, whatever the thing is Tamar responsible for this kind of thing. Alright? And then, so therefore, if something is out of place, if one drug the way it's supposed to do, Tamar. Alright? Here go your bonus till I get it.
Remember when we were saying that we don't want persons being charged with responsibility.
Being held accountable for it, right, yeah.
Of actions of other people. Now, if I'm in charge of, say, medication,
right.
and you, as a doctor, always come in and take it.
Right. And on top of that, add that the doctor is a higher level than you. You don't feel like you can stop the doctor.
And you just walk in.
Right.
Look from me. Walk out, and don't put back on me to put back. How am I going to be held responsible for that when we can't talk to it?
Right. Right. Luckily for us, we don't have to solve that, but you need to just raise it as the issue.
Okay.
To say, even though you're assigning, say, the nurse is in charge of the medication, what happens if somebody above them, like even a specialist doctor, is so like is the highest grade, and nobody can, obviously nobody, specialist doctor can't talk to them. Yeah.
But that's why
you must make it work.
I want to go to administrator for the hospital.
Yeah. Like everybody. Right. Yeah. Right. So for us, he never wanted us to offer a solution. Just to say that they need to, when they are designing this thing, they need to bear in mind that here can be override. And therefore you might end up holding the nurses accountable for things that is now outside of their control because the nurses may feel that they can't stop the doctors. Alright? So it means that when you're thinking of designing this, you have to bear that in mind and put the necessary things. The necessary things here may be, as Desiree said, grill up, key, whatever the thing is, but we don't really need to mention the necessary things. Alright? But we have to raise that point because that is a valid point to raise. It has to do with responsibility and accountability. I can't just simply say, assign areas of responsibility and done. What about those who have override it? And we see it in our work every day too, by the way. Alright? So, you bring that up because you know the override takes place. Alright? And of course, the other part is, as I had mentioned before, we can't put in the RFID without getting them involved. Because we see from the case what happens when you try to put in, because one little easy, okay, some new method to record drug administered. And it's still not implemented yet because they never talked to the nurse and the specialist doctors. And they want to go talk to one group. They go talk to the doctors, the general doctors. And I talk to the other two groups that I know you can't implement. So imagine your RFID are not on the same road. If you don't talk to them, yeah. And it must be easy for them to use, because I remember part of the reaction that they're going to get from them is whether or not, the RFID system designed properly. So when I go to the computer to find out where things are, easy to use, easy to search, blah, 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 blah. Right? So that's part of the interaction that you get from. Right, yeah. Cause sometimes you're gonna get the higher people that higher level people that buy in, the chances are the lower ones won't adopt it either. Alright, so that's this. And as I say, this was really a difficult question. Again, needed to get requirements. Alright, questions? I'm not going to bother look at the third one. We will save that for another time. Right, because, well, it's not really nice, it's just that we know we're not going to listen. So, yeah, you know. Alright, any questions about anybody? Alright? Alright? I'm dying for this world championship, you know, that's really a mash me up. Yeah. No man, seriously, once we come on and turn this thing a mash me up.